Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan here to finish part 2 of our 2-part series on the 53-man roster projection. In the part 1, we did offense. Now we're going to do defense, and that was fun. Offense. We saw offensive line the same. We saw quarterback the same. Had a few disagreements on running back, wide receiver, tight end, which made for some pretty good conversation.
Yeah, and I found the defensive one way harder, which is what I expect going into the process, and it was even harder than I imagined.
Yeah,
there's sleepers like you'd like to keep, you know. We'll get through this because there are a couple guys where I go, wow, this would be a perfect guy to keep, but they just don't have the room. So I'm interested because I have no idea who you're keeping. So let's roll.
Yeah, first of all, with defense, I think that for the purpose of this exercise, I want to get this out of the way. Nakobe Dean, I didn't put on mine because he's going to start the year on PUP. Did you?
Same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Just to make sure everybody, when we do inside linebackers, I don't want people to be like, what do you mean you didn't keep it? He's going to make the team.
Right. Just so you know, he'll be on active PUP. He should. This is the way it should work. He should start training camp on active PUP. And then what happens is, and it counts against the roster in training camp. I hate that rule. I wish they'd just change it. Like it doesn't. If you go on any reserve, well, technically he's not on reserve. He's on the list, but he doesn't go into reserve until the regular season. He goes on reserve PUP to start the season. So you have to miss 4 games. So yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So that's one inside backer that will not be available. Yeah. So you said you'd heard last week that maybe October was realistic.
Yeah. October is the timetable they're hoping on. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So let's see. How many offensive players did you say you kept in the last episode?
So I kept 26, and I made the one switch.
Right.
I put Van Sumeren on and Anai Smith not on.
Gotcha. So for you, it'll be 20. I guess if you kept 26, then it'll be 24, right? Because it's 3 special teamers, and I kept 25, so it'll be 25. All right. So defensive tackle, my friend. Let's start it off. We'll go with yours. You have 5 making it. This is interior defensive line, defensive tackle.
Correct. Yes, because Vic does not call outside linebackers. He calls edge rushers. They don't use outside linebackers according to Vic.
Right.
So my D tackles are Jalen Carter, Davis, Ojomo, Thomas Booker, and Ty Robinson. Gabe Hall, didn't show anything. He wasn't on the roster last season in terms of starting out because he was waived, and he was a practice squad player. He spent the entire practice. He spent the whole season on the practice squad. So yeah, and Byron Young, that's one of the guys I wanted to keep on here, but it's a numbers issue. And he's subject to waivers. Now, could he, if he blows it up this OTAs mandatory camp with the veterans and then training camp? Sure, but then one of the edges is going to have to go. That's the sacrifice you got to make. You can't keep everybody.
So we see philosophically, we see it the same way. I did keep Byron Young, and I got rid of an edge. It sort of is like the Dallas Goedert situation that we talked about, where I just have an issue seeing this one particular edge being on the roster when the season starts. I think that I'm giving it away there. It's obviously Bryce Huff, given the situation. You have him on yours. We'll get into that in a second, but that's where our one discrepancy in the entire edge DL group is going to be. I kept Byron Young, you kept Bryce Huff, and we'll see. Things can change. Don't you think it's a little bit hard to see Howie swallowing the pill? Because this guy's not going to play. Vic's not going to play him. So if Howie can unload him for anything, I would think that he'll just take a 6, a conditional that can become a 5. Like, he'll eat it to give the opportunity to someone who Vic is at least going to play.
I mean, 16,750,000 fully guaranteed. They're not going to eat that. There's an offset on it, but so what?
That's where the draft pick comes in. It's like you eat it, but you get some kind of like something.
I'm sure, kind of like with Goddard, because other teams were telling us it sounds like they're willing to take like a 20, 30, like 5th round pick for Goddard. It's the cash. Nobody wanted to take the cash, and Dallas wants a new deal. They would like to get one more deal to finish the career off, but that ain't happening right now. based on the way he would like it anyway. So with Huff, it's as ugly as it got for him last season. He basically got benched after he came back from wrist surgery. He really needs to play in a wide 9. That's where he made his money with the Jets. He was terrific in his last year with the Jets. Eagles run a little bit of it, not very much. It's just not a lot of times. Not a lot of teams use it. And anyway, if you're trading for the cash, that's starter money, man. 16.75.
I know.
Just under 17 million starter money. You can't trade for that.
Bryce Huff to the Niners. Reunite him with Robert Saleh from the
Saleh,
Jets.
yeah. Now, ironically, they could probably use some, but maybe that's a situation where you ask them, "Hey, we know the money's guaranteed. We'll take on 12 million, 10 million. You take on 675, and you give us like a conditional 28 6-round pick. That could be a 5th, depending on playtime."
Yeah, I could see that. Or you can even build in, if he has like 8 sacks, you get this. If you got, on to make
Pro Bowl, yeah. But
absolutely.
Right now, they're stuck with a contract. Now they get out of the contract after this year. The guaranteed money's up after this year. Thankfully. So it is what it is. It didn't work, unfortunately. And I can't imagine it working with Bryce Huff. Now he gets a full off season. He's healthy. See what happens.
All right. So my 6 interior defensive linemen were Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ajomo, Ty Robinson, Thomas Booker, and I did put Byron Young on. And then when we go to the edges, you had Bryce Huff as one of them. You also had Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Azeez Ojulari, Josh Uche, and the 6th-round pick, Antoine Powell-Ryland. I had all of those guys except Huff. So we really saw this fairly similarly. And honestly, if I could look into a crystal ball and see that there's just in a hapless situation with Bryce Huff and there's just no way to make it work, I would obviously see him being on the 53, because then what else would you do with him?
That's the way I see it, by the way.
If I did that, by the way, if I put him on my 53, the guy I would take off would be Byron Young, because I didn't really feel comfortable having him on in the first place because he was with the team all last year. I get it. It was a developmental year, but it's not like Vic had a real yearn to want to play him either.
There was no room for him to play.
Right.
Yeah, he couldn't get in the rotation. So I struggle with Powell-Ryland. So just talking to area scouts around the league, he's the negative is they all see it the same way. One guy said he's allergic to the run. He runs away from it. He doesn't want to play the run at all. He just wants to get upfield. Would have been great for Jim Washburn, but it's not going to work here with his son Jeremiah, coach of the edges. So you got to at least attempt to play the run. So, and the other problem is how many teams are really going to keep 6 edges? But look, the Eagles have kept. Remember the year they kept 70 tackles to start the season,
right?
Where other teams are saying, "What is Howie doing?" We were like, "We don't know."
Well, to your point, you need somebody to play special teams at that last edge where Powell-Ryland could, and you're probably not going to get that from Uche or Huff. I would say on my end, if Antoine Powell-Ryland didn't make the team, if I had to take him off, I'd probably put Patrick Johnson on, because that's been a good role for him in the past, and they brought him back for that.
Yeah, Patrick Johnson is really here to play specials. He signed a 1-year deal. Oh, this is interesting. He's got a first game of the season being on the game day roster bonus of $75,000. It's not a lot of money, but he's got to make the roster, and if he's active game 1, he gets that money. So he's going to have to prove it. But he only really plays specials, but he's good at it. That's why he's back. But to keep 7 edges is crazy. I can't do it.
Understood. All right. Let's get into inside linebacker. Tricky position without Nakobe Dean. You kept 4.
Yep.
And it's the same 4 that I kept: Zach Bowen, Jihad Campbell, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., and the draft pick Smail Mondon. At the last minute, after I was trying to find room for one person, I did add Dallas Gant on mine, just because I feel like with Nakobe Dean on PUP, it's and Smail Mondon mostly playing special teams, it's tough to have just 3 inside linebackers and 1 special teamer. So I wanted at least a guy who's played a little bit of both special teams and gotten on the field. So I put Dallas Gant there, but I didn't feel comfortable about it, but I felt like they needed 5 with Nakobe Dean out.
Yeah, it's, and it was last year, but they're going to have some undrafted free agent make it. I'm just having trouble getting one on there. Gant was here last year, so yeah. To me, and they've done this before, for a number of years because they've run the Fangio scheme since 2020, 2021. They typically keep 4 inside backers on the roster, and they'll call up the inside backer. Nick Morrow, remember, they brought him back for a second time, and he was the call up guy. They move him up from the practice, the veteran from the practice squad. So
right.
I don't see Mondin's pretty athletic. He's a guy that really just project well for the scheme. I like him here as the 4th guy.
All right, there you go. That's the inside linebacker situation, especially until Nakobe Dean gets back. All right, if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift, and by the time you listen to this pod, if you're looking for a Mother's Day gift, you absolutely are in a bind. It's getting close, so you might as well give the gift of stretching, which you can do online via stretchzone.com, or you can visit your nearest locations. You can get one 2 ways. You can get a gift card immediately with the e-card, or the traditional way, and they're sent and received within 5 to 6 days to the recipient. It is a fantastic Mother's Day gift because everybody, especially the mothers, are the ones that, man, they got the joints, they got, their muscles are tight, they're doing all the work. I mean, they got to loosen up. They need to go and get a little bit of a stretch. It's almost like a spa day for them, but with the added stretching in there. All right. And there's 13 locations now in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. We're talking about Chester County or the main line in Pennsylvania, all over South Jersey. They're in Haverford, Devon, Exton, South Philly, Montgomery County. Where's the Montgomery County ones, Adam? You like to point those out?
So where I grew up in Cheltenham. So it's like 8 minutes from where I lived at Elkins Park, right across the street from the Elkins Park Plaza. Upper Dublin, Drescher area off 611, Feasterville. Warrington one's new. That's their 13th one.
Nice.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey, where you go. Mount Laurel, Franklin Lakes, Northfield, and Princeton. At StretchZone.com. Give the gift of stretching for those who need it, like you and I.
Yeah, I might have to hit the Northfield one this summer if I'm headed down the shore, because I can stop off along the way.
Right.
Because again, the system-wide access doesn't matter if I haven't been there before. They'll pull up my information. Yep. They'll know exactly what I need.
That's right.
All right, StretchZone.com, folks.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, we finish this out. We go to the back end where we get into the secondary, the defensive backs. We have cornerback, nickel back, and of course, safety. Because remember, corners and nickels are not the same. And let's start off with corners. Adam, you have how many?
So I've just 4 because, again, it's a numbers issue. Mitchell starts, Ringo, Jackson, who are competing against each other, Mac McWilliams, who has inside-outside versatility, but again, nickel outside versatility, like Vic would say. Yeah, that's it. I don't have Ricks on it. This staff did not like him. He made the roster, but he just didn't really play. I couldn't figure. I just couldn't get anyone else to the roster. It's interesting. They're kind of short there, honestly, going into training camp or going into OTAs. They could use a veteran just for depth and competition. But for the sake of this discussion, I have those 4.
All right. Guess what? I had the same. I also did not take Eli Ricks. I had Quinyon Mitchell. I had Keely Ringo. I wrestled with Adoree Jackson because I was trying to figure out if they would keep a more hybrid safety. We'll talk about in a second. And, I figured Adoree Jackson is a guy that they could probably bring back on the practice squad if needed, if he wasn't going to beat out Keely Ringo. But then I was just looking at the names, and I just kept him on. So I had Mitchell, Ringo, Mac McWilliams, the draft pick, and Adoree Jackson. And, of course, we both had Cooper DeJean as the nickel role. So that's 5 right there, which moves us on to safety. You kept 4.
Yeah, this is where it became tough. This is edge was not easy. I took some time with that one. Corner was kind of easy only because you couldn't make the case to keep Rex being that the other staff the staff last year didn't really want to play him. So, I mean, remember Mick Williams could be the backup nickel. That's important. You need to have a backup nickel. That's got to happen. So I got a Blankenship Makuba, obviously. Sidney Brown's on a contract. This is what, year 3 for him. Now, the fourth one, our favorite name, Maxon Hook, the undrafted free agent from Toledo. A lot of teams like. We talked teams had a 7th round grade on him. I kind of went back and forth with him because I'm looking for an undrafted free agent to make it. I may change my mind down the line when maybe we'll do one closer again to the start of training camp. See if anything changes from now until then over the next 2.5 months. But I've got Seen making it. I mean, people love this guy. We get a lot of comments on our YouTube comments. Everybody loves this guy, and he needs another chance. I want to keep 4 safeties. I've got Lewis Seen, the former 1st-round pick of the Vikings, as my 4th.
Yep, I had Blankenship Makuba and Sidney Brown, and I probably spent way too much time in May doing this together, wrestling with my guy versus your guy. I kept Tristan McCullum. You kept Lewis Seen. I tried. It's like I tried to balance it out. I know they kept him on the roster last year when they didn't have to because they wanted to give him a shot this year to compete, which means that they see something there. I think I'm just like, he didn't make it with the Vikings. He got hurt. The Bills had him on the practice squad. They didn't do anything with him. And God, the Bills had so many injuries and so many reasons to want to play a guy like Seen. They didn't. And I just wonder if he's the better fit for what Vic Fangio wants to do over McCullum, because I don't know if there's as much guesswork or surprise. I mean, there's a lot of time here to play out because Seen is more like a linebacker type of safety. I mean, that's the reason why we talked about they prefer a guy like Makuba, who's more of a safety / nickel. McCollum's a little rangier. He's tall. He's not your ideal nickel, but he is rangy. He has played. The competition's going to decide. Could be neither of them. They might go with somebody else too. Like you said, it could be Maxon Hook, who they find out to be a better fit. Who knows? But for this edition here, I went with McCullum because I'm conservative. You went out on the limb and went with Lewis Seen for all the great traits that he once possessed. I like it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. Once you've played, all the hype, being a 1st-round pick doesn't really matter. It's about, okay, what does he bring? Whatever tape he's put out, you have to go really back to year 1. With the Vikings before he had the compound fracture, but he's totally healthy, we're told. He looks good. He turns 26 this October. And you bring him in here, as we noted at the time. We were told that the Bills actually they practice him off their practice squad at linebacker, and he's kind of built like that because he's over 6'2". We'll see what he's got. I mean, I'm very interested to see what happens with him in their offseason program. So right now, I got him as my 4th.
Agreed. And now I had 25 guys. I think you had 24 because of how we did it offensively. So I had that extra spot, and that's where I put Dallas Gant at inside linebacker, because we had the same numbers at every other position except inside linebacker. So I ask you this as we close this out: if I gave you an extra spot on defense, where and who would you fill it with?
I would probably, because I'm looking for an undrafted free agent. I don't know enough about these corners.
Yeah, and interestingly, Adam, I thought that they would be a little more aggressive at inside linebacker with the undrafted free agents, given their lack of bodies.
Well, they signed one, and he's a supreme long shot, Lance Dixon.
Yeah,
I would say that I would put Maxon Hook over Seen. Oh, to add another player, you mean?
Yeah, you get to add another player. Let's say you were forced to take one away from offense and put one on defense. Would it be Byron Young?
Hall. It would come down to Young, Hall, or Maxon Hook.
Young,
because he was a 3rd-round pick of the Raiders, and there's talent there. Right. He hasn't really played, so since he's with the Eagles, he hasn't really been given much of a chance. So, boy, the Raiders to cut him so early in his career. I mean, he didn't get out of the second training camp. That's just really disappointing.
Yeah,
So, and I know he was on PUP to start his rookie season. To start it's training camp,
right?
So he's barely played. I would put Young just because there's upside with this player, but I would love to keep Maxon Hook because of the name.
Gotcha. So you're comfortable with 4 inside linebackers is really what I was looking at.
Yeah, because again, you can just play the roster. You don't need to keep more. You only remember, you play 2. You need 1 sub, certainly.
Right.
You like to dress 4. And now the other thing is, okay, we didn't really discuss this since you brought this up. A reason to keep 5 would be if Campbell does not clear for contact until late August, that's going to keep him behind. If he gets cleared in July, to start training camp, different story. We don't know that. We're not sure when that is going to happen.
Right.
So the key for him is getting cleared for contact on that shoulder. That's the number one issue. He should be able to do limited work to start training camp at the very least. Maybe non-contact. Just let him do certain individual drills, no contact at all. That would be, to me, that's like the worst thing. Not that it's bad, but that's the least amount that he should see. The key is, when does he get clear for contact? Because he's an inside backer. You're taking a lot of traffic on that. That's to me the big deal. And don't forget the other thing, that he's got to eventually learn edge rush. He's going to do some of that. So we don't know a lot. Like, it's when going in what the long term potentially looks like, a dual role here, but that's not definite. It's what's the learning like for him? This is not like the defense that he played in Alabama. There's some differences. And as Greg Cosell told us, and someone scouting for another team told us, not super instinctive playing inside backer because he's very new to the position, played less than 2 years at it. So we got to see. He's got a lot of talent, but you got to be patient here. You can't just rush this. So on your point to move this forward and close it out, that would be a reason to keep a 5th guy if they think he's a little bit behind, like DeJean Coop was last year.
No doubt. All right, great stuff. Great conversation. Great look at the 53-man roster early here in May, as we do every year. And the funny part is when we go back and look at how off we were on certain guys in September, but hey, you can't control that.
Well,
anyway,
the guy to you, Greedy Williams, called in June of that year. I remember, like, you're crazy. There's no way. They need it. Well, what it was is, it was not a good sign that the Browns, we were told, didn't want him back. The Eagles were so late at corner. Like, what my thing was, like, how could they not keep him? Who are they going to keep? Well, he was so disappointing, and he never played again. I don't even think he was with another team.
I agree. Yeah, it's crazy.
Bad, man. That's
I know.
bad.
I know. I do remember, real quick before we close it out, remember being told by somebody, like maybe a week or 2 into training camp, watch the LSU kid. He's performing well. So I naturally thought they meant Greedy Williams, but it was Eli Ricks that they were talking
about. Well, Ricks, was he transferred out to Alabama?
I think he went from Alabama to LSU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So,
well, no, he finished at Alabama. That I'm positive of.
Okay, then who is it that made it? Was it Job? No, there was
Job
an
was
LSU
also
kid
Bama.
there.
2 years ago?
Andre Sam. I don't know. I just remember.
Well, Sam was last summer, wasn't he?
I know there were 2 LSU kids. There was a D-back from LSU who was doing well for like a week or 2, and I don't know if he.
Oh, you know who it was? Mekhi Garner.
That's who it was. Mekhi Garner.
There you go.
Exactly.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
We got it.
Good job.
Yep.
All right, great. That'll do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.